Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be going over all the books that I read in the month of October. So I had a pretty chill Halloween, but the month itself was a little bit hectic. So life update, since I have been struggling to find a new job, like a lot of Americans right now, one of the things that I'm doing right now is taking a business class. So this month we were doing a group project, which I detest. I don't want to look down on these kids, but yes, I'm in a class with a lot of like young 19-year-olds because I'm at a community college. I've already done the big academia thing. I've gone to school, so I already know what I'm doing. Being in a group with a bunch of 19-year-olds is stressful. It is so stressful. In the end, we did really well on the project, so that's done. Definitely going forward, I might be doing online classes to avoid this group project situation because I don't know if I can handle it again, and I would like to get this like business marketing certificate as quickly as possible. If I do another group project, that's going to derail it for me because I'm already like this close to quitting because I'm just like thinking like I have a master's. Why am I here again? What am I doing? This sucks. That has been stressful, but reading wise, I've been doing pretty well. Have one video finished that I researched, but I just haven't felt like it was polished enough. Like I feel like I have to go through it a couple more times. It should have been released a couple weeks ago, but life happens. So look forward to that for another deep dive. And then I have to get back on the research train to research for the next big project, which of course is the Goodreads number 4 video. In between then, I have been reading for that. I've been reading outside of that. So without further ado, let's get into what I read. As always, we're going to start with manga and then go into novels and nonfiction books. And so we're going to start with the series that I'm continuing, which is going to be March Comes In Like a Lion number 4. This is a adult series. It is about a young high school boy named Ray. He was orphaned as a child, was put in a very difficult family situation because of that, and now he is living on his own and he is a professional shogi player, which is a form of chess or like a game similar-ish to chess. And so it's his daily life struggling, trying to survive in this pro shogi world, but also just like trying to survive as like a human. The anime for this is excellent. Highly recommend, and then getting into the series. But if you do start the manga series, the publication for this is very behind. It is very slow, but I can't even fault it because this publishing group does such an excellent job. They just go the extra mile to make these really beautifully made mangas. So like the covers are very thick. They have the end flaps. They have normally a colored illustration page that folds out and it's very special. I have to hold it one-handed because I'm holding the mic in the other hand. So they have these beautiful illustrated pages. The manga itself, I'm assuming, is very difficult to translate because it's very intricate and very specific to a very like niche thing, which probably has a lot of niche kanji, but the paper they use for the manga is excellent. It's just very well printed, and so I understand why they're behind and why they take so long to print stuff because they are doing a very quality job of it, but it'll take a while to get through that series at this point. The next book I read was The Apothecary Diaries. This is the manga adaptation. I've been reading the light novel adaptation, but whenever the manga adaptation comes out, I do collect this and read this as well. So this is like the hit new anime. It's one of the favorites for a lot of people. It's an adult series, but it's following a young girl in a palace, which is kind of modeled after like a Chinese palace system. And in it, she is solving crimes with her knowledge of poisons and plants and different stuff like that. But it's also like she just has a really unique mind and is good at solving these kind of cases. And so like I said, this is like the hit anime right now. Barely ever had that happen to me where I have been following something that's really, really popular. And it's just so fun to see like people's creative stuff like on TikTok talking about the manga and the anime. I really love this. It's really fun. It's historical drama, has just really unique, interesting characters, a protagonist that is very different than a lot of other manga protagonists right now. And so I highly recommend checking out the anime and seeing if you're interested in the series, maybe from there picking up the manga or the light novel because it is a lot of fun. And the next series I was staying on top of was reading some volumes that I already owned. And that of course is going to be my Kimi ni Todoke volumes. I read 13, 15, and 16, which means I am now caught up with what I have bought. I technically have a couple more mangas. I think I have 3 more to read, but they are not in sequential order. And so for Christmas, I'm going to be asking for the next couple volumes volumes of this. This is a shoujo slice of life, pretty much like teen high school story. In it, we are following our main character, Sawako, who is a young girl who just comes off as very scary, just like her features and like the way she smiles and stuff kind of creeps people out. People connect her with the character Sadako, who is like the girl from The Ring. She kind of looks like that. And so this is like, yes, a basic like high school contemporary shoujo drama, but it's also very much like a story about all these different characters coming together, becoming friends, starting relationships, and a lot of it is based around the fact that their peers have very specific ideas of who these people are, and that doesn't really fit who they feel they are inside. It's really a lot about like perception and fitting in, and it's really sweet, very cute. The drawn out nature, I'm sure, would bother a lot of people and annoy a lot of people, but I look on this series just very fondly, and I've been having so much fun reading it and collecting it, and now I'm more than halfway through because there are 30 volumes and I've read up to 16 now. I really loved this collection of volumes in particular because it covers my favorite couple, which is one of the side couples, and so yeah, I can't wait to continue this hopefully after the new year when I get some more volumes that I need. So now that we've caught up on the manga that I have been collecting, I have to talk about a new series that I started and have started collecting, and that is going to be Yasuko Fiancé. So I read volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, and volume 5. So Yasuko Fiancé had an anime adaptation in 2024, and I believe I watched the first episode of it, and I don't know what, I just like wasn't into it, didn't feel it at that time, and so I recently in October went back and watched it, and from there became very obsessed with it to the point where I read it all online and had to go out and buy the physical copies, and I'll get into reasons why. To cover like what this series is about, it is a CN or adult series, and it is following a high schooler who is about to graduate, I believe in the next year, and her name is Yoshino, and Yoshino is the granddaughter of a yakuza or mob boss. Been living in Osaka in this mob boss family. Her father died when she was very young. The series gets into it later, but she doesn't live with her mom either. She lives with her grandfather, and one day she finds out through the newspaper that her grandfather got her engaged to the grandson of another yakuza boss from like a opposite clan. This is like a big deal because it's like gangs, you know, getting together that are not friends with each other, even though the two grandfathers are like friends with each other or were in their past, but that doesn't matter. It's like the grandson and the granddaughter getting together. She ends up moving to Tokyo to finish out her high school year with him, who is also a high schooler. And of course she meets her fiance and they are going to school together, doing stuff, and she's like, he seems okay, he seems normal for the most part. He's a little smiley, a little touchy, but like he seems okay. And then one day he's like, hey, I can't keep up this act anymore. I'm bored of you. I thought you were gonna just be this like chaotic person, this like spoiled brat type of character. I really wanted that, and you're not delivering on what my expectations for you were. And so it would probably be best if you went home, or if like you did something for the clan, like sell your body, because you're not really contributing anything. He does this as like a scare tactic, basically. I think he really means it, but like also like a scare tactic of like, get rid of this bitch who's annoying me. To this point, Yoshino is kind of playing nice, I would say. She was raised to act normal, to be able to interact with people, I think. She has like another side of her, like more of an angry, doesn't take shit from anybody kind of side, and she was kind of keeping it mellow just because she was trying to feel out the situation. But now with Kirishima doing that to her, she is completely snapped, and she's like, sell my body, say less. She ends up selling her kidney and gives him the money that she got from the kidney, and it's like, here you go, you wanted me to do that, there you are. And he immediately falls in love with her because of that, because yeah, she was finally acting crazy like he wanted it. And so how did I fall in love with this series? When you're starting out this series, like, yes, it's a little over the top, it's dramatic, it's obviously very intense, but I think the author does a really good job of like balancing these characters with each other. Like Yoshino, she seems normal enough. She is not, in fact, like a shy, like damsel in distress type, which you normally see in anime. Both of them have very strong personalities, and they're able to bounce back off each other very well, and I think that makes them really strong against each other. It also just works because like every character is like this heightened persona kind of a person, and so it makes the world like work because you're working with a lot of really intense characters coming across each other. And the deeper and deeper you get into this series, the more stuff is revealed, the more intricate it gets, the more interesting it gets. But also like these characters are not one note, in my opinion. I feel like they are just very layered and very interesting, because Kirishima is not just interested in her because she's acting this way. There's a lot more layers to why he's like this and his personality, and there's a lot more layers to her as well, and I really feel like they're really interesting people. And the other thing that's really interesting about this is how fast the manga artist has progressed. Like the first volume, the art is pretty solid. This is not a debut series for her, but like you can see like the characters' faces are a little bit more flat, a little more cartoony. You can already see the evolution of her design by the fourth volume, and by the later volumes in this series. I am currently up to volume 8 in November, and I'll talk about that later. The design and the characters' faces get like so intricate and beautiful, and the art is really stunning. And I just love to see an artist's progression, but to see it so fast is like amazing. I'm collecting this series kind of out of nowhere. Yes, I became obsessed with it. That's a very big reason, but there is another reason, which is the manga is on hiatus. For me and a lot of other people means I'm not going to get into this series because I don't know when it will come off hiatus. But if I had a nickel for every time an artist went on hiatus and I became obsessed with said material by them, I would have a couple nickels, let's just say that. The author has been on hiatus for about 2 years. How did that happen? They have cited it as health reasons, but we also know from some other Twitter stuff that has been like translated and kind of posted on Reddit that the manga artist was very unhappy with the anime adaptation. I see a lot of people like defending this and trying to like say that the anime isn't good. I think it is very normal anime, like it's very normal quality. Honestly, I've watched a lot of bad quality animes. I'm watching a couple right now, and I would say that this is like average / on the good side of average. Like it's very normal. So I feel like if you're interested in the series, do watch the anime is what I'm saying. It's not bad. She was not necessarily upset with the anime and how it looked. She was more upset that they did the anime without her knowledge and without like consent basically, and they didn't like talk to her about anything, so she didn't have any say in anything for the anime. And so people think she's kind of gone on strike, gone on hiatus because of her and relations with her publisher, but possibly because of other reasons like plot beat stuff, which is very common for anime publishers, where they might try to be a little bit too hands-on with the project and won't move the project forward unless the author takes their suggestions. There has been no suggestion yet, as far as I know, that she is coming back, which is very disheartening because again, this series is just getting into the meat of the story, is just getting really interesting. It luckily ends on a note that I feel like is like okay to end on, like it's not ending on a big cliffhanger at least. So yes, I'm collecting this series because I'm obsessed with it, but also because I am worried that it will not come out of hiatus and that it will slowly go out of print. So I'm collecting it for my own posterity. So yeah, that was a very long-winded explanation of my love for it, of the series, of the author and her situation, but I want to talk about this series with somebody, but it's not widely popular. There isn't like a fandom on Tumblr or anything. I found like no fan art for it. So I need to get my love for the series out in some way, and you are my willing victim. But now with that done, let's get into the books that I read. So I'm going to start off with the 2 books that I read via the library. We're going to start off with Between the World and Me. Like I said, I'm working on my Goodreads video, and this is one of the picks for the non-fiction list. I don't want to get into the Goodreads side of it too much, but this is a shorter non-fiction, a memoir that has had a lot of acclaim around it, and I've been interested in it, but it wasn't at the top of my list, so I took this Goodreads video as an opportunity to read it. So Between the World and Me is Ta-Nehisi Coates' memoir. He is like a author, poet, essayist. This is like the first essay memoir that became really popular of his, and then he's had a couple other ones that have since come out and been really popular, I believe, but like this is the one that I've seen everywhere at least. This memoir is just him recounting stuff in his life, his thoughts and feelings about a lot of different topics, but it's kind of told as if he is like reciting this to his son or like telling these things to his son. It's mostly about like race in America, but there are other topics discussed as well. But it's short, a little on the dense side, I would say, but it is like excellently crafted. He's a poet, an artist, you can really tell that. And I am interested in reading more of his stuff. I didn't rate this because it's a memoir and like it feels weird sometimes to write memoirs, so I didn't, but I would highly recommend this book. So the next book I read from the library is going to be The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And this is a fantasy, cozy fantasy that came out in the last year or so, I believe. It's gotten a little bit of buzz around it. I've seen it around, but like I feel like cozy fantasy is definitely dropping off in favor, so I haven't seen a ton of stuff about this. But this is basically a story about like, I want to say she's like mid-late 20s, maybe early 30s, and she is like an adventurer. She can tell small fortunes, and so she goes from like city to city doing so. There's a hint that she has like a bigger power that she's not really willing to dive into, and that she's kind kind of fleeing from something, and we slowly learn more and more about her past as she is traveling the road and gathering like a group of comrades to come with her on this journey. She ends up running into these two men. One of them is looking for his daughter who has been lost and he believes is stolen by raiders, and so like they join in a company together and are doing like this kind of quest. And I'm not like a big quest person, but this story really worked for me. I liked how it gathered the people. It felt natural. Like every element of them running into things, it didn't feel like another story beat. It felt like a natural transition into a different event kind of a thing, if that makes sense. I've read a couple cozy fantasies and I've been kind of mid about them. I've just felt like they're kind of middle of the road, but this was a 4-star for me, spoiler alert. I just felt like it worked really well. This, I would say, is less a cozy fantasy and more like a fantasy of personal stakes and personal goals. So there's not, well, there kind of is an overarching thing, but like there's not this big overarching thing that they're trying to defeat or stop, and it's mostly like this personal journey for our main characters, specifically for our main character Tao. Like I said, she has like this mysterious past that's coming back to haunt her, and so it's her dealing with those issues, and I feel like that really worked as a cozy fantasy, was having these personal stakes be the bigger issue because it made the story and like the events that happened very satisfying. I've seen a couple people call this a little bit trite, and I've had that issue with other cozy fantasies, but not this one. I felt like, again, it was satisfying, it worked well. None of the conversations or the events felt unnatural or like just placed to be a story beat. But maybe it was just the right time in my reading journey for this to work. I will say it dragged on a little bit long. Like the last 4 chapters could have been a couple paragraphs in an epilogue. We had kind of already concluded the book at that point, so I don't know why we had to have a longer story at the end there. But overall, if you're looking for a fantasy that's cute, that's cozy, if you're looking for a fantasy that does not have any romance in it or no romance for the main character, this one is for you. Personally, this just really satisfied what I needed at the moment, so I really enjoyed it. And it's also one of the newer books that I felt like had pretty good craft behind it as well. Like the writing wasn't like spectacular or anything, but the descriptions were interesting. They were not overly flowery. I felt like they were effective, beautiful, but again, not overly written. This was one of the few books that I felt like had pretty decent writing, which a lot of 2024, 2025 releases have not. The next book I read was The Broposal by Sonora Reyes. This is one of the books that I have owned, that I bought when I was ending my employment with a bookstore company, but it was also one of the Goodreads picks, so I ended up picking this up and reading it. And this is a adult rom-com. Basically, we have our two main characters, Alejandro and Kenny. They live in Alberta, New Mexico, and they have been best friends since childhood, kind of attached at the hip, but Alejandro is a illegal immigrant, is straight, and then Kenny is his best friend who is bi and in a terrible relationship. But Alejandro is really worried about securing and keeping his green card after he loses his job, and so Kenny and Alejandro decide that they're going to get married to each other, and they start this whole fake dating relationship thing, which everybody believes because they always thought that these two would get together in the end anyway. And then Alejandro starts to question his sexuality and is just questioning everything, and Kenny is dealing with his like toxic ex situationship. So yeah, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of high stakes situations. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I like messy drama, so I felt like this was pretty entertaining. It made this story just more significant, I guess, because it is talking about like immigration and living in the US as an illegal immigrant. I have read Sonora Reyes' debut novel, which was a YA. This did feel a little bit young adult. They're out of college, they're in like their mid-20s at this point, I believe. But they did feel a little bit younger to me. I was just reading this, having a good time, thought it was pretty charming, really enjoyed the characters. There are a lot of silly moments and over-the-top, drama-heavy, melodramatic stuff happening. This was solid, fun, was a good time, a good break between other stuff that I've been reading. And then the final book that I read this month was A Power Unbound by Freya Marksey. This is the final book in the Marvelous Light trilogy. So I read A Marvelous Light earlier this year, and then I read A Restless Truth last month, and so I wanted to finish out the series strong. So this is an adult fantasy series taking place in Edwardian times, so you kind of have a little bit of that rules, manners, society air to it, but there's also like this bigger mystery slash crime thing going on that these characters characters are solving. The first book, we follow Edwin and Robin. The second book, we follow Robin's sister and then her love interest, who I'm forgetting the name of, but is a woman. So we have a sapphic relationship in the second book. So in this book, we are finally following Lord Hawthorne, who has been kind of a reoccurring character in the back of this book. And his love interest is someone that we met in the second book, who is Jack Alston. And I really enjoyed this concluding novel. I felt like it really worked to make a satisfying conclusion. The second book, I didn't love the couple as much, unfortunately, but also I felt like the mystery was a little bit repetitive and didn't really add a lot to the story. This one doesn't really have a mystery since we already know who the players are. It doesn't try and have like a big thing to solve really, which I feel like worked in its benefit. And so it's more so that we're following like the fallout of the other two books and the characters trying to secure the MacGuffin basically before the bad guys can take it. And you know, that kind of like back and forth fighting the bad guys and winning against the bad guys, because spoiler alert, there's a good ending. And again, the other thing that worked for me was the characters. We had seen them, we kind of know them at this point. Lord Hawthorne, I feel like, has been kind of like an anticipatory figure for me because he's like very rude and brutish and just kind of like the nasty cold man trope. So it's nice to finally delve into his history because we know that there was something bigger going on. But yeah, we finally get his story he's dealing with, and then we get his love story with Jack Alston, who is like this guy that grew up poor on the bad side of town, is like a writer for the paper and is also a thief, and they have a very, very spicy situationship going on. I'm like trying not to delve too deep into it because I feel like I've already given a lot of loose spoilers for the series about stuff. I guess it is kink. They go full BDSM kink in this situation. It's like very consenting. They very much like it and are into it, so it works really, really well. The first book, I felt like I was really off-put by the spicy scenes. I felt like it didn't necessarily go with the series. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was needed for those two characters. These characters, it really worked for. It was a little bit like, whoa, we're going there for a moment, but if you've read on AO3, like, it's not anything scandalous. But yeah, be warned that this series does have sex scenes on page. Again, really enjoyed it. 4-star book, 4-star, 3.75 star series. Just really solid, fun, good time. The mystery is never really a mystery. It's much more about following the characters, discovering and watching and finding out stuff than actually solving a mystery. But like the magic system is really interesting. The world is interesting. The characters are fun and enjoyable, and I like seeing them like form this kind of group by the end. And so again, really solid, really fun. And now that I finished a series, I feel like I can start a new one, which is what I did. So like I said, I've already read a couple Yatsuko Fiancé volumes in November, which I will be talking about in November. But the other thing I did is I started The Will of the Many. I'm reading it physically and I'm only about 150 pages into it. I'm starting a very big chunky fantasy series, so I do feel good to get another different series off my belt before I start in on that one. I will say sneak peek for Will of the Many, I am enjoying it a lot. It's just gonna take me a while to read it because I'm trying to read a lot of other stuff at the same time. But yeah, that is everything that I read for the month of October. Let me know what you enjoyed, what you've been reading. As always, it keeps this channel going when you like, subscribe, comment. It's always very much appreciated. I will be back with some more statistic videos very, very soon, so stay tuned. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading!